So I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter, Ella. I'd been having some blood pressure issues, and my managing staff was aware of this. I told them, I'm like, listen, my blood pressure is kind of acting crazy. I'm not feeling that great.
Amanda Poole is a pharmacist in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She worked for years at CVS until incidents like this one.
7.5 months pregnant. Never once was it offered to have somebody come in and help me or work with me. And God forbid you had a stool. So my blood pressure bottomed out and I felt I was on the ground. I passed out, and the only reason that anyone knew that is a customer came in to pick up a prescription and no one came to wait on her in a timely manner. No one reached out, no one from like higher up in the company apologized even. Hey, I'm so sorry this happened, are you okay? None of that. They were really more concerned about who's gonna fill this hole because she can't work today.
They'll try to tell you at CVS and Walgreens that there's just a shortage of pharmacists, there's a shortage of technicians, and that's not really the case.
When you treat your employees a certain way for so long, they stop wanting to work for you, and that's essentially what's happened.
Between the long lines snaking around the vitamin aisle and the soaring price of drugs, picking up a prescription has become a sickening experience for many Americans. And believe it or not, it's even worse for pharmacists themselves. After a decade of turbulence, burnout has become such an epidemic among pharmacy workers that they're starting to unionize. When the Pharmacist Guild's website went live on November 8th, it crashed almost immediately under the weight of 30,000 union-seeking workers. The uprising began a month earlier in Kansas City, where retail pharmacy workers at stores like CVS and Walgreens walked off the job in protest.
It's not just specific to one area. This is a problem that's teetering on the verge of a public health crisis. And it emboldened a lot of technicians and pharmacists to follow suit.
Shane Jereminski is a pharmacist in Palm Springs, California. His Facebook page, The Accidental Pharmacist, helped organize the Kansas City walkout. Not long after, on October 30th, pharmacists walked out of stores nationwide in a protest that was dubbed Pharmageddon.
Walgreens and CVS and all the chains wanted to downplay it, saying that there was minimal disruption to their business operations. But we had hundreds of pharmacists and technicians across the country participate in it.
It wasn't all that long ago that being a pharmacist was a prestigious, desirable job. And the people who do the work still love its key functions.
I love it. I mean, I love that patient interaction. I like that they know me on a first name basis and I know them on a first name basis, and you laugh with them and cry with them, and sometimes you grieve with them as well when there's a loss in the family.
But like so many healthcare workers, pharmacists have been caught up in vast changes to the industry that have made life hell for workers and patients alike.
Pharmacists are having to do things that they didn't used to do 10 or 20 years ago. They're incredibly short-staffed and overworked, and having to deal with patients that are often very disgruntled because they find out how much they have to pay out of their own pockets, even with insurance.
This is Wendell Potter, a former health insurance company executive who now works to expose the abuses of the corporations that have seized control of the American healthcare system. Pharmacists cite several interlocking problems, including working conditions, short staffing, and treatment of patients. All of it stems from one of Potter's focuses: corporate consolidation and vertical integration.
Insurance companies have increasingly gotten into healthcare delivery. They've been buying physician practices and clinics. One of their biggest cash cows these days is their pharmacy benefit management entity.
Pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, work for insurance companies. They negotiate with drug makers over how much the insurance company will pay for different medications, and then they negotiate with pharmacies over how much they'll get paid for filling a prescription. It may sound like the free market at work, but after a decade of corporate consolidation and vertical integration, the market has been rigged to our detriment.
10 years ago, pharmacy benefit managers were much, much smaller, and they were not owned by big insurance companies. They were independent, but insurance companies saw an opportunity to make a lot of money in the pharmacy supply chain.
CVS Health, the biggest retail pharmacy chain in the country, also owns Aetna, a massive insurance company, and Caremark, the nation's largest pharmacy benefit manager.
In the first 3 quarters of 2023, CVS Health made $6 billion in profit thanks to this vertical integration.
Caremark, the PBM, can cut CVS retail pharmacies a better deal on a drug than it would give CVS's competitors, or any smaller independent pharmacy for that matter. The company's sheer size and its domination of the market gives it a lot of negotiating power.
These are kind of like take it or leave it contracts, and PBMs, Express Scripts, CVS Caremark, and Optum Rx control like 80% of the pharmacy benefits manager market. So if you're an independent pharmacy and you're presented with this contract, it's kind of take it or leave it.
The success of independent pharmacies is often determined not by customer service or expertise, but whether it can eke out a profit while dealing with these behemoth corporations. And because those corporations also now consider them competitors, it can get pretty ruthless.
So Ozempic acquisition cost might be $800 or $900, but when is all said and done, the patient's copay plus what's reimbursed by a company like Express Scripts, you might lose $50 on that medication. I mean, that's an unsustainable business model. And that's why independent pharmacies are going out of business.
And a lot of them are closing, leaving a lot of people in communities with no option except one of the chain stores.
Pharmacists often prefer independent stores because they allow for more personal interactions with customers, as well as a safer work environment. Between 1980 and 2022, the United States lost half of its independent pharmacies. 3,500 closed between 2010 and 2016 alone. Chain pharmacies are closing at accelerated rates too. Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy in late 2023 and is expected to close 400 to 500 stores across the country. In 2022, CVS said it would close 900 stores. With less competition, it can focus on its mail-order pharmacy and pad margins even higher. As stores disappear and their customers flock to the remaining chain pharmacies, the stress on workers spikes exponentially.
If no one shows up or they have call-outs, they'll run it with one pharmacist there. It was about 6 years ago, 7 years ago now. That's when all retail pharmacies started to understand how profitable vaccinations were.
Right when the COVID vaccines were rolling out, you'd have 4 patients every 15 minutes for shots. Again, I was fine with it at first because I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna vaccinate, it's still that same mentality. I'm gonna take care of everybody. So I'm gonna vaccinate as many people as I can. You would come back and you would be behind. And every prescription has a timestamp on it, and you are judged by that time. So if you don't have your prescriptions in and out in a timely manner and you fell behind, it would turn red, and then that would show up on a report for your district leader or your manager for the next week.
The long wait times are inconvenient for customers, but inconvenience isn't the worst part. The business model is actually leading to life-threatening errors. In 2021, a survey found that 91% of pharmacists didn't think their workplaces had enough staff to safely dispense medication.
You get only a few seconds to evaluate every single prescription. And it sounds like, I'm speaking in hyperbole here about killing someone, but it's very easy to make a mistake that can be potentially fatal.
What happens when you're so busy and your technician is overworked or you don't have a technician there and you've typed in the prescription, you've checked the prescription and you've looked at it and you think it said lisinopril, which is a blood pressure medicine, and it said levothyroxine, which is a thyroid medicine.
The store might get issued a fine of $5,000, $10,000, even $25,000 for a serious medication error. The pharmacist that committed that error and the pharmacy manager who's ultimately responsible can be put on probation, which really hinders their ability to practice. So you tell me who has more at risk there. It's a line item on a corporate tax return for Walgreens or CVS, but it has severely changed the course of the trajectory of your career as a pharmacist.
One study found that 5 million pharmacy mistakes are made per year in California alone, most of them at CVS and Walgreens. Pharmacists need more help, but they say the appeals fall on deaf ears, with little compensation for new technicians. A key driver of the walkouts was a crowdfunding campaign to pay those pharmacy techs a living wage for their day on strike.
We paid out wage assistance to 175 technicians across the country. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics has the average retail technician making $18.25 an hour, and that's simply not reflective of the amount of work that they do.
IAM Health, a national union of healthcare workers, is backing the Pharmacists Guild, which is planning a national rollout this year.
Pharmageddon allowed us to get that national media coverage, to have an existing established union back us in a way that we could roll out a national campaign. I made a bold prediction on a couple different places. I told the Financial Times that I foresee 5 years from now, the majority of pharmacists and technicians from Walgreens and CVS being unionized. And I stand by that, because as soon as the first stores start voting and they see that what we're doing is working, there's going to be such huge buzz that we're going to have an avalanche of people that are interested.
Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And if you have ideas for what stories you want us to cover next, drop them in the comments.